Hello, my name is Lisa Elvin Staltari, and this is my channel, Have Roots Will Travel. I am a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Most of my videos will be about travel or locations, but in this very special series, I'm going to be focusing on a part of Quebec Canadian history that is near and dear to my heart, the story of Les Filles du Roi, or the King's Daughters. I'll be focusing on individual biographies so that we can get to know as many of these amazing women as we can. Please let me know in the comments below if there's one fille du roi in particular you are interested in, and I'll try to move her to the front of the line. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click on the notifications alert so you'll know when I post new content. Let's get started, shall we? The Filles du Roi program was a program designed by Jean Talon in 1663. I go into this program in great detail in a video entitled Les Filles du Roi, the program. You can absolutely you go to that YouTube video and kind of get more information about the program, and no one in particular, just to understand what the girls were going through, what they went through, and all the ins and outs of how to come to New France. Today we're going to be focusing on, let's have a look, Françoise Aubé. She happens to be my 8 times great-grandmother. Now, Françoise was born in 1639 in Saint-Sulpice, Paris, France, in the parish of Saint-Sulpice. This is the church in Saint-Sulpice that was built in the 1640s. However, so because she was born in 1639, she would have been baptized in the church that had actually been erected in the 13th century. Just amazing how long and how old these traditions are. She lived in a part of France, or Paris, that is the 6th arrondissement, which is the 6th circle, the 6th region of Paris. And this is a renowned area of Paris. It features the intellect and cultural artists, very, very renowned, and today it is actually one of the wealthiest areas of Paris. We don't know exactly what Pierre did for a living, but we can be certain that there was some degree of education, because Françoise could sign and read, which was later proved when she moved to New France. So he did not pass away, and neither did Françoise, but she chose to come to New France. She was 27 years old when she hopped on in 1668 and decided to make a new life for herself. July 3rd, 1668, they arrived in Quebec City. Who was the groom? Well, his name was Michel Aube dit Châtellerault. And in fact, he comes from a place in France called Châtellerault, which is one of the reasons. Remember that dit means also known as, so it was a Michel Roy, which is a very common name. It's kind of like Smith in Quebec. So to differentiate him, that's what they would have called him. His parents were Michel Roy and Louise Chevalier. He was born on the 9th of January, I have that down as 1949, and obviously 1649. He arrived in Canada in 1665 as a soldier in the Carignan Regiment. Now, I want you to notice the 1649. That means that he was 10 years younger than Françoise. Very interesting dynamic. You don't see it very often, but it's interesting when it does happen. He was a very renowned kind of leader. Once he left the military, he would serve as a leader in the militia, but he would also serve as in government. Eventually, he would settle as a notary and would practice this profession for the rest of his life. So he was somebody who really achieved a great deal in New France, and we have to assume that Françoise helped him as well. They were married at the Notre Dame Church in Quebec City on the 8th of October, 1668. So she disembarked on the 3rd of July, and by 8th of October, she's married. So that's pretty darn quick. Pretty darn quick. This is a schematic drawing of what Notre Dame looked like during that time. It obviously is much more beautiful right now, and is the Basilica de Notre Dame in Quebec City, which you must see when and if you visit. So they settled in a place called Ste-Anne de la Pérade. As you can see, it is between Quebec and Three Rivers, and it is a municipality that is part of the Mauricie region. The town is located near the mouth of the Ste-Anne River, and it's found along the Chemin du Roi, which is a historic segment of the Quebec Route 138 that stretches from near Montreal to Quebec City. It's actually the world capital of Tommy cod fishing, if you can believe it. From late December to mid-February, thousands of tourists come to Ste-Anne for ice fishing, and a small fishing village is built on the frozen waters of Ste-Anne River that bisects the town. Note to self, do not visit unless you are a fisherman during that time. The centerpiece of the town is the Ste-Anne de la Pérade Church, a Catholic church near the Notre Dame, modeled after the Notre Dame Basilica in Montreal. The story of Ste-Anne de la Pérade begins in 1603 when Samuel Champlain, on one of his voyages, names the river Ste. Marie. It would be called this until the 1660s, when it was changed to the Ile de Ste-Anne. And then the first seigneur was a man named Michel Aube, who was awarded the land from Jean Talon, the intendant of Quebec. This was around 1667. By November of 1668, he recruits a prominent tenant, our own Michel Aube de Châteauroux, and his wife, Françoise, who recently were married, to be the first true occupant of the land, a true pioneer. This is what Michel and Françoise were. And so you can see on this map with the arrow, he got one of the, if not the choicest land right at the mouth of the river. He would go on to become a leader in the community, and he would head up serving government. He would be head of the militia. Eventually, he would serve as a notary for the remainder of his life. Now, eventually, Michel Aube would sell his shares to two men who would share the seigneury for a time. And then eventually, Pierre Thomas Thériault de la Pérade, the son of one of these two men, and hence Ste-Anne became Ste-Anne de la Pérade. Here's an interesting note. Pierre Thomas happened to be married to a Quebec heroine, Madeleine de Verchères, who at 14 years of age had defended her family and village from an Iroquois raid, and she became the seigneuress of this place. And it actually ended her days here. So it's kind of an interesting take on Quebec history, the fact that she, ended up there. Let's have a look at the family. Now remember, she came to Canada in, she's 27, 28 years old, Françoise. So in other words, she could, her fertile days, if you will, were numbered. So they actually only ended up having 5 children. But these 5 children did amazing things. So let's start with Edmund, who married Marie Janvier, and they had 5 children. Mary Catherine, who married, and all of them, by the way, all of Edmund's children made it to adulthood. Marie Catherine married Claude Rivard de Loranger, who they had 8 children, 7 of whom made it to adulthood. My own 6-time great-grandfather, Michel, married Marie Madeleine Quatreçu, and they had 3 children. All 3 made it to adulthood, but only 1 produced a lineage. And thank goodness, because that ended up being my 6-time great-grandfather, Joseph. Pierre married Marie-Madeleine Hamlet, and they had 10 children, but only 3 reached adulthood. Marguerite married Pierre Gouin, and they had 10 children, 8 of whom made it to adulthood. Now, what's really interesting is that Edmond, Michel, and Pierre achieved something amazing. And Marie Catherine's husband, Claude, so all the three brothers and their brother-in-law were hired. And who were they hired by? They were hired by Cadillac. And they would go on to become voyageurs, and they were part of the Cadillac convoy who settled Detroit. And their names are on this plaque. And if you go to Detroit, you will find this plaque. All three brothers are there, in addition to Claude Rival de Lauragais. So it's amazing. And in fact, Edmond's line would eventually end up going into Louisiana. So there's a part of the branch of this family that goes to Louisiana. So that's an interesting, and I haven't explored that part of it. But just goes to show you that out of those 5 children, she just had amazing, amazing, descendancy that continues to reverberate to this day. Now, in their later years, Michel was a busy notary and an agent for the seigneurs, all of them. Each of them contracted with him to handle the affairs of the seigneurial land and issues that arose. In 1689, he entered into partnership with Rival de Lauragais, who was a fur trader. They obtained a contract with the North Company to trade in the areas of Lake Abitibi and Temiskaming. Although Michel did not partake of the actual fur trading, he was, I'm sure, instrumental in arranging contracts and sales. And it would turn out that his daughter, Marie Catherine, and Robert's son, Claude, would marry, thus joining these families not only in business, but in life as well. Françoise would also teach the children of the community in her later years. Françoise would pass away January 12, 1709. She was buried on January 13, 1709. Michel died on the day of her funeral and was buried the very next day on the 14th. They were an amazing couple, and they're buried next to each other in the Ste-Anne de la Pérade cemetery. That they should pass away essentially at the same time is truly a testament to the strength of the union and the life they created. It is in the burial records that the confirmation of their ages is found. Françoise was indeed 70 years old when she passed, and Michel 60 years old. Their love story truly was unique, and their contributions through their work and their descendants continues to this day. Really amazing story. And so ends another mini biography of a fille du roi, king's daughter. We will continue this exploration in a next video. So until then, I will say au revoir.